How do you coach someone into feeling?
To be honest, you have to start really small, work your way into it, and give some tools. There's some things that we do in the beginning of working with someone if they're wanting to really dive deep and work on themselves, which if you want to be successful in anything around you, the key is always
You.
here. It's
Yeah.
always you. To feel alive, we actually have to feel the spectrum of emotions.
Just feel it all.
Men and women, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do it. It feels vulnerable. It feels out of control. It feels weak a lot, especially men, but I'm going to just say women too, is that it makes us feel, all of us, it like really, there's this like almost a shame with it.
Welcome back to the Anniston Riekstins Show. I am so happy you're here, and I'm so happy you continue to tune in when you could tune in just about anywhere. And I'm really excited because of the guest that I have on today, who I feel like is one of my newest but most favorite friends that I have met in 2025. Missy, I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Truly, I'm excited.
So anyway, when I said newest, I was like, that doesn't feel right because I feel like I've known you for a really long time. Like, I feel like we're just getting reacquainted is what it feels like.
Absolutely. And I feel that. I love that. Yes, my newest friend that feels like a really old friend.
It feels like an old friend. And I feel like I've met a couple of those this year. And every time it just feels like such a blessing and a bit of there's some magic there. I don't think we'll ever fully understand, but I'm really happy that you're here today. And I think that you and your specific message and your specific mission is really needed right now, especially with women. And so I'd like to dive right in if you're open to that.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, cool. So you work with leaders. You are technically an executive leadership coach, and you work with men and you work with women. But I'm curious, what part of your own story actually pulled you into this work?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. I think the answer to that is all of it. All of it. Yeah, it's really true though. I had been, started on a journey actually when I was, really younger. It's kind of like I feel like there's like, there's the 20 chapters, the 30-year chapters, the 40, and I really started on a self-development, journey pretty young in life. And I feel like each decade it's like, oh, well, here's a new, I don't know. I don't want to say the Hunger Games, but it kind of at times is about like that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But I've been through a lot in life, not that we're in a competition of who's been through, hard things, but I've had some challenges come my way in life and really, seeking to overcome those things. I think I want to say it was in my 30s that I was really, really struggling in life, and a lot had happened. Our son, during that time in our lives, had suffered a traumatic brain injury, our oldest son. And I, spent actually quite a few years just like living in the hospital and him in, rehab and a lot of surgeries. And I was really, really in survival mode through all of that. And we'll have to do a series of podcasts to talk about, to go way deep into it. But really, I had this realization I wasn't me anymore. I didn't feel like myself. I felt really numb, and and at that time, I had it all in life. I had a beautiful home. I had a handsome husband that was so good to me, and we had our children and like the white picket fence life. And but inside of me, I didn't feel fulfilled, and I didn't feel happy, and I really didn't feel like myself. Like all the things that are me, that are like the strengths in me, like I've always been artistic, I've always been creative, I've always been silly, I've always been funny, I've always been fun, I love to dance, all the things that make me me. I really felt really lost. I didn't feel like myself in my own skin. And I think the realization during that time was that I was the common denominator in all of it.
Mhm.
And I tell this now to my own clients, but I had this day, and everybody probably, you probably can relate, I suspect, is there's a day and a moment that we realize, um, I create my life. And it's like such a hard pill to swallow. It's such a like, wow. But once you do, and you realize it and you recognize it, and you're willing to face that, you just go over and it's like the best news ever
It's like
because
release. It's like,
because I
yes.
I create, I create my life, and so I actually can create it. But not know at that point though, I was like, but I wasn't sure, like, okay, how do I do this? And so that was really the beginning of my journey, is I realized that that was true. I knew it in every cell, and you talk a lot about remembering. It was like somehow I felt like I'd always known this,
Mhm.
but I knew it was true. But if I know something, there's a way. And I was like, whatever I've got to do to figure this out, I am on it. Like, books, podcast, I heard a coach. I did all the things, and it really was the best news. It was like, oh, wow, I can create my life and how I feel in it. I really truly can create how I feel, and I can, like, joy actually is available to me.
Yeah.
So that was something that was a personal journey for me. And I had been speaking for years. I've spoken on stages and in different settings, and I was speaking back then, and I had been invited to speak at an executive retreat and for a group of guys, which I did, and it was wonderful and, really lovely, group. And they called me and said, hey, Missy, do you think that you could coach us on some of the things that you taught us? And I was like, sure. And so really that's when my coaching and bringing in clients, that really was born. And they started referring me. I started working a lot with those guys within their businesses, but then they would refer me, and then, it just grew organically like that. That's how I got started in the
So
coaching aspect of things. Yeah.
do you feel like, oh, 2:22. Sorry, I just saw the time. Do you feel like that it was the teaching element that really opened you up? Like, because I always think of our purpose, which is very much tied the equivalent of our fulfillment, right? It's like what activates it for us is wants us as much as we want it, but it requires us to open, right? Be open to saying yes to opportunities that come that light us up. So, what is it about coaching, do you feel like? Because obviously, this is what you're meant to do. Otherwise, it wouldn't expand in the way that it has. Like, what specifically about coaching do you feel like has activated you?
Well, I mean, it truly brings me so much joy to, I just described a little bit of my journey, and I feel like, okay, I have these tools that I learned, and I, really, it took me a long time to get there for myself. And I've, been able to learn a lot of tools, learn things that work for me, things that don't. And it really brings me a lot of joy to turn around and, to someone and say, you don't have to spend a year figuring this out. I can just tell you. I can just talk to you, and I can help you. I can just give you, this gift that was given to me, and you don't have to go through figuring it all out yourself. I figured a lot of it out. And I have found that a lot of what has worked for me, well, it works for others. It's,
Yeah.
it's true principles and things that really make a difference. And so it brings me so much joy to see that light come on in others. And, I've worked with so many people, and uh, I've had, I have this same story has come to me so many times, especially in guys. And I've worked with a lot of men, but they're referred to me by someone, and they call me for like leadership coaching. And we start talking about, we just start, opening things up and talking. And when they start to open up, they're not happy in their business. They're not happy in their marriage. They're not happy. They feel very unfulfilled, but they have all the things. They're like super high achievers. And, from the outside looking in, they have it all. And I had one guy in particular I'm thinking of. He came to me and he wanted help navigating. He wanted to change everything in his life. He wanted to start a new career. And he's success. I mean, he's later in life. I mean, he's entrepreneur business. He was married with older kids. He wanted to leave his wife. He wanted to change everything. He wanted some help navigating all of that. And, I get really even talking about this brings me, I don't know, it makes me so happy because in working with him and helping him to see and learn that he was creating his life, like we talked about, he was creating his reality. And he started to be able to feel again.
Mm-hmm.
He started to wake up and be able to, he didn't even know that he was numbing out and numbing everything. And starting to wake up and learn how to feel, just little simple tools of learning how to feel your emotions and to decide what emotions you want to have. And so anyway, really getting into that, he just became so, and I remember this is a grown man who is very successful business owner. He's a pillar in his community. Has all the things. He has nice cars and all the toys. And I remember one day, we got on a call and he was sobbing. And I thought something had happened. I thought something terrible had happened. And he was able to, collect himself to be able to talk to me. And he just said, I thought I needed to change. I came to you to change everything. And he thanked me. And he said, thank you for helping me to change me. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I just have such an incredible life. And we worked together for a period of, longer period of time, but he was in love with his wife. His relationship with his adult daughters they were having lunches and spending time together. And he decided to grow his business, and all these things that he thought were terrible and he wanted to change were actually his greatest blessings. And he was able to wake up and see that. And it was that brought me, and still does to this day. It still brings me a lot of joy just thinking about it.
Oh, I mean, you said something here, and I think I really want to anchor this because I think you really hit on the crux of a lot of issues, and one that I came up against personally. You said learning how to feel. And it sounds so basic. It sounds so simple. Yet for me, in my own experience, and even as someone who, hand to heart, I was spiritualizing everything I was doing. I was thinking I was doing all the right things, and I was waking up early, and I was following the routines and all the recommendations, and I was reading all the books, and I was growing, and I was expanding. And I thought, it's easy for your mind to kind of trick you into thinking that you're actually healing and expanding and growing when you're really just thinking, because you haven't actually allowed yourself to feel. And it wasn't until I realized that I was thinking about feeling instead of actually in running mental processes, which is what I think a lot of men are conditioned to do. And I actually believe a lot of high performing women, or women who have these big aspirations, are consciously or unconsciously conditioned to do, because we believe that, we don't want to be that emotional woman, that woman who is all over the place, who isn't respected because she's too emotional. So we attribute feeling to being emotional. So I'm curious, from your vantage point, right, and working with all of these men and these high-performing men, how do you coach someone into feeling?
Well, I will say that it is true for women and men. In our society, we're really conditioned to not feel. And we don't realize that.
Yeah.
We don't realize it, but we're really, really taught from a young age to not feel. We could go into what that looks like, but it shows up a little bit differently of how women and men do that. Um, so to be honest, you have to start really small because it's very overwhelming. If you know one, or maybe you are someone who has been down a path of becoming sober, like all of a sudden you like are feeling feelings because you're sober now.
You're not numbing.
It is very overwhelming to all of a sudden feel. It's actually, that is what usually is the thing that brings people back to whatever addiction they have, is because it's like, okay, like I'm like actually feeling this, and it's very overwhelming.
Right.
So you really actually, and this sounds so even kind of childlike, and it sounds but you have to start kind of small and work your way into it, and give some tools. And there's some things that we do in the beginning of working with someone if they're wanting to really dive deep and work on themselves, which if you want to be successful in anything around you, the key is always you. It's always you. So if someone is really willing to do that and wanting, to go that route, it's not an easy, it takes a lot of courage to do that. But really starting small in even just noticing beauty in nature is a small thing. And it sounds like, well, but to take time to do that and to notice it and sit with how you feel, it's a small thing, but it's a big thing when we're so conditioned that we don't ever stop, and we go. And even when we're stopped, we're on a phone, or I grew up with all guys, and and I have 4 sons. And anyway, my uncles also lived with us. So I just lived in this house full of guys, and it was not uncommon for there to be like 4 or 5 different games going on at the same time. And my house can still be like that. Sometimes I feel like I live in Buffalo Wild Wings with all the sports, which I'm a sports lover, but I'm just saying it looks a little bit different for all of us of what that noise is. But we are, especially now with, the phones and the TVs and all the things, we don't know how to be still and to handle that, and to actually feel what it feels to experience a feeling.
Yeah.
It's very, and it's daunting. And then when you begin to feel it, it's just like this, my client that I brought up that he was sobbing. When I first met him, he was very like reserved and polished. For him to be able, that's not the goal, that we can just come and you're right. We don't want to be crying all the time. But something that is so powerful that I've learned is to feel alive. Is to feel. And even people think, well, we're supposed to be happy and we want to feel happy, but that's not what it means to feel alive. To feel alive, we actually have to feel the spectrum of emotions.
To feel it all.
We have to feel it all. And you are so right that men and women, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do it. It feels vulnerable. It feels out of control. It feels weak a lot, especially men, but I'm going to just say women too, is that it makes us feel, all of us, it like really, there's this like almost a shame with it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's cultural conditioning, and it's how we've been taught to view emotions, or those that are showing, especially being for me, and I know for you, and we were always, I think you're a middle child as well. No, you're oldest.
I'm oldest.
So, but I've met so many women who it was like, okay, just don't be overly dramatic. Don't take up too much space. Don't show all your negative emotion, because that is viewed as like, oh, now your parents have to deal with it. And I think that we do have to approach this as you would a child, in a way, because in some ways we kind of are reparenting our inner child. We're reparenting an aspect of ourselves that never learned properly. And in my experience, it was surrendering and allowing myself to feel it all that led to my freedom and my liberation and my authentic self and all the things that I was searching for, all the things that I was looking outside of myself to find. All it required me was to get still, was to make peace with stillness. Interestingly enough, you said the nature thing. I remember when I was having my coming home to her moment, which is what I call, which I was like my most recent inner inner deep dive, or when I was really called inward and I just took a break for like 30 days. I would go walk in the park and I would take sometimes these videos of like, it was spring and plants were starting to bloom and the roses were starting to bloom. And there were moments where it would almost bring me to tears. Like it was so beautiful and so innocent. And it just brought me so much peace and inspiration. And I realized this has been here all along. I just haven't slowed down enough to see it. So I want to thank you for bringing that forward. And I really want to talk about women because obviously I know you mostly serve you right currently right now, and in your past you've served a lot of men, but in our conversations, especially as someone who has come from corporate America and who spent a large bulk of my adulthood working in and out of corporate America and largely with a lot of men, I'm curious from your perspective what you see happening with women, like high level, women leaders that are working in these organizations, and where you feel they miss the mark in terms of how they're showing up and how they're looking to expand amongst this masculine driven industry.
Oh, it's such a great question. And I love that. And yes, and I have worked with a lot of men and I did like I grew up around all guys and but I am a female obviously and I'm a girl's girl and I love women and I love being able to bring everything that I've taught in that arena to women as well. So to answer your question, I think especially in like, this male, world that is corporate or business and all that, all that encompasses, I really feel like women have been missing the mark on that. And I've been able to work and I don't just do, like this like life coaching, like I do business coaching and consulting and, I've been able to really get into business and help people grow their organizations and, at a table like full of men and they listen to and value my input and what I have to bring. And I think there's some things there that, I love to teach about. And so one of them is that there's been this misconception that we have to show up masculine in a masculine world. Mm-hmm. And then so the other side of that coin is, well, we have to show up like feminine in a masculine world and just be. And so I'm going to challenge both of those things.
Okay.
Because and this is where I really love to dig in and actually have a tool that I work with this, where when we show up somewhere, for instance, women typically, like if they show up being frank or direct in the corporate world, that's seen as it can be seen as a really negative. If a man shows up and they're very frank and they're very direct and they tell you their expectations, they're seen as a leader. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if a woman does that, typically, they like are called bad names. I mean, it's not a positive thing, and that's not right. But so how you do that, and really this is true for men and women, but women, we need to be balanced. So the other side of the coin, the paradox of being frank and direct and expectations that you have for someone is being diplomatic and warm and empathetic. And so we have to find a balance in that. Yeah. So I have a tool that I use that does an assessment that shows where you're out of balance of your strengths. So all strengths, there's a feminine and masculine side to it. Mm-hmm. And there was some areas that I was way out of balance. For instance, this is one of them. I'm glad I brought that up because this is one that I was out of balance. So I And a strength of mine is I'm able to be really diplomatic and I can be warm and empathetic. But in my business, I really wasn't with my team and the people that work for me. I wasn't really being super direct of what my expectations were and very frank of this is what I need you to do. And so not realizing that it created I'm like, what's the matter with these people? Like, why aren't they doing what I need them to do? Why aren't they, so when I started to understand this, I've really had to lean into stating my expectations, being frank, being direct in what I need. But I'm also naturally, I'm a diplomatic person. I'm
Yeah.
able to do that with kindness and warmth and support. And so since I've leaned into balancing that out, guess what? My team gives me the people that they give me things on time. They know what I need. They're able to produce what I'm asking for. And it's just like, oh, wow, that was me.
Yeah. Oh my God,
So,
I'm laughing. I'm literally like dying inside as you're talking because that was so me. In my last role, I had a large team and I am similar to you, very objective. I can be very objective, diplomatic, and neutral, right? In my thinking in terms of making in decision making, very warm. I create a really safe place. However, when it would come to having giving feedback or being very specific in what I wanted, I was erring too on the side of being warm and empathetic and not direct enough. And I would find myself in these situations where, I would have team members who weren't communicating the way I wanted them to communicate, weren't delivering the way I wanted them to deliver. And then I would be like, I don't understand why they're like, I don't understand. Are they taking advantage? And it was just a lack of clarity. Like I wasn't being direct enough. It's always a mirror, right?
yeah, it's always a mirror. And so then when we're whether it's with men or teens or really whoever it is, when we can come in and be balanced in that way and understand how to be balanced in that way, and that's just one example of, an area to be balanced. It makes people in general feel safe.
Yeah.
If you think of your children and your kids, there is a paradox of like rules and being enforcing with that warm and empathetic side. And if you're just rules and on time and you run your parent like a military style, it's going to cause some problems,
Yeah.
especially as they get older. But if you're just like, I love you, we're best friends, come in anytime you want to, refuse, whatever you feel like, you're going to have some real problems, especially as you get into teenager world. And so being a good leader as a parent, it's the same thing as being a good leader in your business or in corporate or even with the opposite sex is being able to balance, like, these are my expectations. This is the consequences. This is what's going to happen if those aren't met, while also, that kind and warm, and understanding, balancing that. It is the key to, like, this is so big on like parenting, but it's also the key to leading. It's also the key to dealing with, men. And when you're in corporate, it's very powerful when we can do that in a balanced way. It's very powerful.
Right. Well, and I'm sure having that awareness is really powerful. I teach in my programs and containers, I take them through a process of identifying where they are wounded in the feminine and masculine, and then working through that awareness to start to change the behaviors to bring balance back, which is very similar to what you're doing with different language, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always amazed at how many women have never actually even associated themselves with masculine energy because they think it's gender specific, that you're either masculine or you're feminine and that's just the way that you are, when in actuality we have both. And then we need to have the both, right? We need to be able to receive as the feminine. That means intuition. It means resting. It means not self-abandoning. It means having boundaries, being able to hold your boundaries and use no and say yes and all the things. But then you also need to execute. Otherwise, nothing ever gets off the ground, right? And you're like that person who has all the ideas but can never actually pull something across the finish line. And you don't have the courage to execute, to take risks. And I think that that men and women need to be balanced here. And when you
Absolutely.
and that's
This
it's
is,
that
yeah.
unbalance that we find, especially as you get in that upper echelon of leadership, that can cause some of the greatest destruction. And it's stuff that happened when they were young. And so from a as a as a woman and as someone who, which we were all leaders, right? Even if you're not in an organization, that's the thing about leadership, right? It's self-leadership first. And when you can lead yourself, then you can lead other people. Do you feel like that women are selling themselves way short as it relates to like, you know what I mean? Like going for opportunities and really leaning into that masculine, because I feel like we are in a deficit, like a lot of the imbalances in the world now are reflective of that deficit of women really stepping into that leadership. So like, how would you coach a woman to really lean into a bit more into that masculine? Because I think that's kind of what we need in a lot of ways, like women stepping up and being boldly and courageously getting out into the world and bringing their gifts out into the world.
Well, I love that you brought up, we lead ourselves first. And I had mentioned that, when we lead in this way, in a balanced way, it makes our children feel safe. They feel comfortable. It makes our team, but actually it makes us feel good. We feel good on the inside when we can, operate in this way. And what happens when we don't is that we will really feel burnout. And that's one of the biggest things that I find with talking to women, and men do the same. We do the same thing. They're just show up a little tiny bit differently. But for women, typically women are also, doing all the things at home. I mean, not that men don't help, but often I do. Like there's certain things that I really manage and care for at home and with children. And, my husband and I work really well together. But typically, women are managing so much more than just, something in an organization. And if we don't do these things, if we don't learn to do these things well, it's we get into overwhelm really quick, and then we start operating from exhaustion and really burnout. There's so much that goes
Yeah.
with burnout, but and then we don't really do anything well. Then we don't really do anything well when we are not leading ourselves first, and we're not operating from a balanced place. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
No, you did actually. And listen, I really look to you as someone who, you don't just teach this, I mean, you demonstrate it. You have your own business. You are very successful. You have 6 kids. You have grandbabies. You look like you're about 20 years too young to have grandbabies. So you clearly take care of yourself. You have a beautiful marriage. And when I sit down and talk with you, you don't have small dreams. Like we're not just like phoning it in. Like, okay, I'm good now. I'm good. My kids are. I know you still have a 12-year-old at home, but like, I feel like so many women allow this story, right? This story of, well, there's just no way. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until all my kids are gone and until I retire. Because once I retire, I'll have the space to do all of these things. And then here you are, like writing a children's book and your free time and you're doing, you know what I mean? So can you walk us through, like, how can you help women reframe this story around what they have capacity for and what is possible for them?
well, I love this because I do. Like I'm in my 50s, and I feel like the plane's just taken off for me. It's
Yeah.
just barely getting off the runway. And so um and I have in different chapters in life, and I do still have I have 2 at home, but I don't have 6 at home, and it is different. It's a different life. Is different now, and I am able to focus on some things that I want to do and that bring me so much joy. So for me and for everybody, this is true for everybody, is that I've done a lot of work around this, and it's true in the other phases of my life where, there was a time that I was really like, when our kids were, they all played different sports, and that we had to be at all these different places, and, had to have all our equipment at the same time. And we were just juggling all the things. And so it's true in that phase of life when I had little small children. There's a period that we lived out of a hospital. It just doesn't matter what phase you're in, is that I have had to learn to boundary myself.
Yes.
And I've had to learn in what phase, what do I need in order to perform well. You and I have had conversations about this, and I have to be really, if I tell someone that I'm going to do something, let's say we have a lunch date and I put it on my calendar, it's highly likely that I'm not going to stand you up. Like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to be there because I said I would.
Yeah.
So I have learned, if I have something on my calendar for me, like I go to the gym most days, I spend time outside. There's a lot of things that I do to take care of myself that I'm able to have that capacity. I show up. Like, I show up for myself like I do for other people. I have to.
So good. Yep.
But what happens, and women, especially women, we have to flip that it's selfish, because we think, oh, that's selfish. I can just not go to the gym. I can, if somebody calls me and says, could you do this thing? And of course we have to be flexible. I mean, there's times if I have a sick child, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to not go to the gym, or there's things that I'm going to miss, but very few things am I going to miss doing the things that I need. So when we take care of ourselves in that way, we identify, what do I need to perform well? What do I need so that I can have the capacity, and we give it to ourselves.
Yeah.
We have so much more capacity to do so much more, and we're able to show up better with our children. And, if we have spouses, and when we are running an organization, or maybe we're creating something, or whatever we're doing, we have the capacity to feel good, and we have the energy because we've gotten a good night's sleep, and, all the different things, like even eating well. I have to figure out a way when I travel. I cannot go on the road and eat junk. If I do, I will come home and crash. I'll usually crash before I get home. It's not, I have to do that. I have to take care of myself. And like, if you think back, if you've had children, and like when I had a newborn baby, I would never dream of going on the road and go, I hope we can find something for him to eat. I hope we can, maybe at the gas station, they'll have some formula. Like, I would never dream of doing that. I would make sure that they had good food, that they needed to be cared for, and they would get to take a nap when they needed, and they would have the clothes that they needed. So I tell women a lot, we have to take care of ourselves a lot like we're newborn babies.
Yeah.
Like, babies, they need a nap. And if you think you can just not have a nap, well, you're going to learn really quick that it's not going to work well. Like, we like to buy babies cute clothes, and we feed them really like the best nutrition, and we dress them darling, and we have fun and play with them. And that's what we need to do that for ourselves.
I wrote down so many things. Like, I wrote boundaries, underline, and flip the selfish story. Okay. I mean, literally, I won't get on my soapbox here, but I do think that whole, this is selfish of me to say no to bringing my child to this third or fourth birthday party of the weekend. Like, when you're looking at, I always think and you can tell by the language that you're using is usually what will be sometimes when you're unconscious and you're in this pattern and you're in this season of life where you're like, well, this is just the way it is. This is just, I have no other choice. My kids are young, so I have no time for myself. My purpose, my mission, what lights me up more than anything else is going to have to take a back seat because my child needs these things, X, Y, Z. And I always think, I'm like, what are you teaching your child in this moment? Yeah. Because in every day and in every moment, we're teaching our kids how to adult and what this looks like. And what are you modeling? Are you modeling that you're not important? Are you modeling that your passions don't matter and that once you become a mother, forget about it? You are now enslaved to everyone else's needs with a smile on your face. And if you were to ever complain or get sick or get tired, well, that's just you being lazy because the mom next door doesn't seem to get tired. She's got full of energy, right? Like it's all these crazy stories that we tell ourselves. And yes, I believe we were born, we as women have the incredible opportunity of knowing what it is to carry a child and to birth a child into this world. But they're not our children. I hate to say it, we are here to shepherd, we are here to guide, but that does not mean that's not our excuse to abandon who we were born to be. That's not, and I think a lot of times it becomes our scapegoat because we're afraid. And when I realized this and I really started thinking about what is on my plate right now and how can I show up in a way that is supportive for my kids and is supportive to my husband and to myself and to my passions, what will that require? What is it going to take? And that was the question that I started asking. What's it going to take? What is it going to take for me to be able to write my book and not wait another year? Because guess what? I don't know if I have another year. What is it going to take? And I realized, well, it's going to require me to tell the kids that we're not going to be able to they can only do a certain amount of after school activities. Okay. It's going to require that I work on some weekends, which is going to mean that, Rudy's going to need to help out in the mornings with the kids while I write for a couple of hours. It's going to require and it's amazing what you can do when you actually come at it from that. You realize that time is created. It is not found. And if you allow other people to dictate and run your life, they will take all of your time. And not because they're mean or not because they mean anything. That's just the nature. So you have to reclaim your power. And I love that you've been able to do that. So I'm curious, Missy, what are you most excited about right now? I want you to inspire us with your, what are you creating? What is your dream?
Oh, that's a big question because I feel like it's a lot of things. You mentioned that I've been working on a children's book. I have a couple of children's book that I'm working on. I'm so excited about. Been a passion project of mine. You mentioned that I have been working with a lot of men, which I will continue to do, and I have incredible guys that I've had clients for a long time. But I'm really wanting. I am creating some containers for women so that I can teach women a lot of the same in a different way. Because they're the same principles, it's the same things, but I really want to bring. I've seen a lot of guys just really come alive and wake up and find joy and happiness and it's so. We didn't even talk about this, but when we start to grow and expand inside of us, all the things around us grow and expand, from everywhere from money and our business and clients and all the things, everything, our relationships. So I've been able to, witness that. And I want to bring that to women. I want women to be able to understand and know and have the tools to be able to find that within themselves. And so I've been taking on a lot more female clients, and specifically I've been working on creating some containers specific to women. I'm a big believer that men need men. We need each other. I mean, men and women, we need each other. We need to be side by side. But men need men. And I really am a believer of we need women. Women need women. We can relate and fill each other up in a different way. And I'm really excited about being able to do that.
I love that. And I'm excited that you're doing that because I know how needed it is. I know how needed it is. And working with some of the most incredible women that I've ever worked with, I feel like in a corporate setting, I feel like whenever we would have an opportunity to just get around women, it would be like our own little Me Too moments. And I'm not saying, in a positive way. It would be like, oh my gosh, I felt so nervous. And they're like, you did? I'm like, yeah. So oh my God, I get nervous every time I need to raise my hand and share my idea. And I think we need to normalize a lot of things because we're way more similar than we are different. And I'm excited for the containers that you do create and for the opportunities that you're going to give for women to really step more fully into their leadership. Because I do believe we all, as women, we hold codes for each other and codes of remembrance, and just being around certain women activate us in certain ways. And I do believe you were most probably drawn to leadership because you're going to be able to activate leadership amongst people, but not in maybe the powerful leadership that we've been taught, but the balanced leadership, the heart-led leadership, the intuitive leader who is able to, in the truest sense of the word, turn around and guide people by the hand forward, and in a way that will benefit the whole and not just the few. So
Right.
I'm excited.
I love that. Thank you. And I love that. I think that, we're talking about powerful leadership, and what I believe that really means is impactful leadership.
Yes.
To really be able to impact and make a difference, and not just, like you said, organizations, but in just the people in our families, in us, in our children's lives, our adult children's lives, in our communities. Like, we have when we really become balanced and remember who we are, we are powerful in that way. We have an ability, and I don't, I think even sometimes more than men, to really, really impact.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm pretty much, you know what? Like I am a spiritual feminist who adores men. That's what I feel like.
I love that. I love that. So stay tuned. I have some coaching containers specifically that I've created for women, and there will be a Facebook women's group called Extraordinary Women.
Yay!
And yeah, so I'm super excited that that's all going to be launching soon, and I'm excited to be able to not only work with women and teach things that I've learned, that I've known, but really empower women. This is a big thing that I've had to overcome, is to learn that, give myself permission to invest in me.
Yeah.
And, that's a whole nother thing we could talk for a long time about. But I thought that I existed for a long time just to only invest in others.
Yeah.
And I had real awakening that it was not only okay, but absolutely necessary for me to invest in myself. And I love to help women to learn how and to do that, and to go on this journey. So it lights me up. I get excited.
I can tell.
Talking about it.
Well, I will, by the time that this episode drops, I would imagine the community will be up and running and thriving. And so we are going to include a link for the Facebook group, as well as where you can find Missy, in terms of if you're looking for leadership coaching, if you're looking for a speaker. She's a prolific speaker, and she delivers just incredibly life-changing trainings. And so whether you're in an organization, you're an entrepreneur, or you're just looking to step into your own self-leadership, I hope that you will definitely stay in contact with Missy. You have absolutely positively impacted my life in the short time that I have known you. And I can't wait to see what we get to create together moving forward in the years to come. So thank you again, sister, for your time today and for sharing your genius with this beautiful community. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my heart is full. It's been a joy being here.
Awesome. All right. And to everyone tuning in, I see you, I love you, and I will catch you on the next episode.